What is up, my dudes? Welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. Long time no see. It has been a hot second. I have just been super busy with life and dance and living in Kansas City, which has been just absolutely amazing. I'm having the time of my life here. And it's also kind of hard to film when you're living in a house with 5 other women. So today we're going to talk about, if you can't tell from my Baby Yoda shirt, Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I've always loved Star Wars, just a huge fan. Perfect, I love it. It's so good. And every year I try to do this, a rewatch, where I just watch all of the Star Warses all the way through. I go 1 through 1 up, which I know is a little bit controversial, but that's just the way I like to do it because that's the way the story goes. And so I thought, why not make content out of something I do anyway? So today we're going to talk about episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Most often people's least favorite, most often the one that people point to when they say that the prequels suck. And I found that it's not as bad as people say. Like, I really had fun watching it again. I really didn't mind it. It's Star Wars, so how can you not love it? There are some problems with it, and there are some things that are just like, I know are problematic to other people, but aren't problematic to me. So, I mean, do with that as you will. But so, today I've separated my, my list of things into 3 categories. I have the light side, which is all the things I like about the movie. I have the dark side, which is all the things I don't like about the movie. And then I have like kind of just like a middle. It's like, I know people have strong opinions on them, but I really don't. And then I kind of just want to talk about how this movie has played out culturally and then also within the Star Wars universe itself. So if you like analysis videos like this, give this video a big thumbs up, comment and tell me if you like these type of videos. I know this is kind of different to what I usually do. And subscribe if you haven't already. I'm at 21 subscribers and I'm pretty sure one of those is my mom, so only 20. Alright, so let's get started. So, the light side. The #1 reason why I love Star Wars is the music. John Williams is practically a god. I love him so much. And this movie is no exception. I wrote down a bunch of times that I was just blown away by the music. Of course, the main theme, the is just, my favorite thing. The main theme plays a little bit when ObiWan and Qui Gon have their first fight against the droids on the Trade Federation ship. The theme for the underwater city is just absolutely gorgeous, mystic, mysterious, unearthly, just everything you would expect a mysterious hidden city to sound like. The Force theme, when Shmi talks about how she conceived Anakin, and how, if you know deep Star Wars lore, she conceived through the Force. So hearing the Force theme there gives you a little bit of a clue that how Anakin came about was not natural. When Anakin first boots up his pod racer, he goes, "It's working!" That music there is just so beautiful, just that triumphant, lovely swell. The music before the pod race gets you super hyped up, super excited, and the lack of music during the pod race just like really brings you into the world, especially with the beautiful sound design, which I'll talk about later. Palpatine's theme is just extremely eerie and scary and really cool. And while it does get overplayed, especially in episode 9, but we'll talk about episode 9 when we get there. It's just so excitingly eerie, and you can really tell that this guy is just pure evil to his core. When the Naboo ships take off to go fight the main droid control ship is just so triumphant and exciting, and that may be nostalgia a little bit because when we played the Lego Star Wars games when I was a kid, that was the music that was used for the end of a level, so it was like, yes, I accomplished something. Duel of the Fates. What has not been said already about the Duel of the Fates? It is just one of the most epic pieces of music ever. It is a little sad that the words are Sanskrit and they don't really mean anything. And I've seen plenty of videos making fun of, you know, what the lyrics actually are in it. But it's just, it makes it so otherworldly, and it takes the entire fight to a whole new level where you have kind of had, like, you haven't really realized what the stakes were until you hear that song, and then it's just completely different. And the way it builds and the way it like cuts in and out of the action is just so perfect. And if you're ever looking for classical music to work out to, Duel of the Fates, perfect. And I'll definitely talk about Duel of the Fates more when we hit episode 3. There's a bunch of hints of the Imperial March all the way through the entire movie when you get to Anakin, and when you hear just like connected to the Sith, because the Sith aren't really Imperial yet, but you know they get there, and with Anakin turning into Darth Vader, of course you know that's inevitable. So you hear that foreshadowing of Vader's theme throughout the entire movie. And then, of course, the end music has always been my favorite. It's just so triumphant, and fun fact, it's the Emperor's theme sped up, which is really interesting because the Emperor is from, well, Palpatine is from Naboo. So it makes sense that Naboo's like triumph theme, especially since it's the first triumph for the Republic, which eventually turns into the Empire, that celebration for them is the Emperor's theme sped up. It's so good, guys. I love the music, and like I cannot talk enough about the music, but those are just some specific points that I had. Some other light stuff. ObiWan and Qui Gon are just so good. If you think about it in how the movies came out, this was the first time we were seeing a Jedi other than Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And there's just something so comforting about them. Qui-Gon especially. Qui-Gon, you can really feel like he's been through it. He is strong, he is controlled, he is smart, and like how excited Obi-Wan is, and like you hear Obi-Wan and you go, oh, that's the guy. That's, you know, from the other movies. And so even just like those beginnings of that connection is just so exciting. And just throughout the whole movie, the dynamic that they have, just Obi-Wan's absolute heartbreak at Qui-Gon dying. Spoilers. I should have said spoilers at the beginning. But spoilers, Qui-Gon dies. And just how they're just the relationship that they have is just so wonderful and so beautiful, and I love them so much. And I feel like I wish we could have had more Qui-Gon. I know he's in the Clone Wars, which I haven't watched all the way through yet. I need to get on that. But it's just so good. The underwater city, again, I cannot sing the praises enough. This is Jar Jar's hometown, whatever, and just the design of it. Just everything about it is so cool. And like it was making me think of like in the lore, like how did they build it? How did they get this technology to create the underwater city? It is so cool. The design of it is so beautiful. I kind of just want to live there, but then again, I also just want to like be a mermaid. So there's that. Everything about the pod race is fantastic. The tension leading up to it, during it, the way it's filmed, the way it sounds, just, it's so good. It really is just one of the most immersive parts of the Star Wars universe, and you can really tell the care that went into creating it. And speaking of the sound of pod racers, the sound design in this movie, guys, it is so good. Just like every little thing, from the pod racers booting up to the way the droids sound, to the way that the lightsabers clash against each other, to the sound of the Naboo guns. It is just all so good. And the sound design, I will also sing its praises all the way through all of the movies, just because it just continues to get better. Darth Maul. So cool. Oh my goodness. I can't even with Darth Maul. And I'm really glad that they brought him back and expanded his character in the Clone Wars, as much as I've seen them, because he was completely wasted in this movie, let's be real. But I had the privilege to meet Ray Park a couple years ago, who is the actor that played Darth Maul, and just everything about how passionate he was about this character and how just mysterious he is and how cool he is and how cool he looks. And just, I can't even imagine that moment when people are sitting in theaters watching this for the first time and he like has his lightsaber and the first one comes out, the first side comes out and they're like, oh, okay, we're gonna start fighting. And then the second side comes out, just psh, people have never seen that before. That must have been so cool, and I wish I could have lived that, or like forget that I've ever seen the movie and experienced that for the first time. Just Darth, and he did go out like a wimp, but he took out one of my favorite characters first. So, I mean, he's got that going for him. When Anakin and Obi-Wan meet is just my favorite. Just, I love it, especially because, you know, the relationship that those characters are going to have eventually. It's so good. The end lightsaber fight. Like, I literally can't with it. The music, the design, the set design, the fast pace of it, and how they're just going at each other, and like the continuity of it, and just like how you see Darth Maul using all of these aerobatics and kicks and things, and so it makes sense that when Qui Gon gets kicked in the nose, that at the end that's where Darth Maul makes his strike, because Jedi don't really fight like that, so it's surprising when you see like their legs up in the air and doing flips and things, and just the tension and how it builds. That scene in the hallway where Qui-Gon sits down and meditates like a badass, so good. Just, I love, it's one of my favorite duels in all of Star Wars, and when we get to the end, I will rank all of my favorite Star Wars duels. But it's just so good, guys. There are a couple of quotes I just love as well. I say, like, one of the quotes I say the most is, "Now this is pod racing," which I know is cheesy, but I love it so much, and it's, like, applicable to everything. I also love the line that Palpatine says at the end when he meets Anakin for the first time, where he goes, "We will watch your career with great interest, because you know what happens." And just, like, all the foreshadowing that happens in this movie as well is really cool. And the end celebration makes me so happy. It's just always been one of my favorite parts, just like for as long as I can remember. Just the music and the costumes and, you know, just everything. And then I don't know if it's only on Disney Plus or if it's like on the actual DVD or whatever, but I watched the credits all the way through to the end just because I love the music. And at the very, very end, you hear Vader's breathing. And I thought it was so cool, because, you know, you have this wonderful epic movie, but then you know where it's going. So, that's all the stuff I absolutely love about the film. And let's talk about some of the stuff that is not so great, the dark side of the film. And the first thing I gotta talk about is the racist aliens, because they are, unfortunately, racist stereotypes. And 1999 was a completely different time, my dudes. It was pre-9/11, kind of the tail end of this really mind-numbing, we can just do whatever we want decade of the 90s. And the Trade Federation should not be Star Wars' proudest moment, because just their design, the way they talk, it's not even an homage to anything. It's just like, let's make these characters ethnic, and without really any purpose. Like, I would get it if it had some sort of purpose, but since it doesn't, it's just like, why is it there? This might be a personal thing. I've never liked Watto. I know I might get some hate for that. Yeah, I've never liked him. I've always found him annoying. I don't like his character, considering the fact that he owns slaves. I mean, there's that. I mean, he's interesting, definitely. But I just don't really like him. And, like, I think it's probably just a me thing, where I just, like, I feel like everything about him is unnecessary. The political stuff sucks. It's like, get your politics out of my Star Wars movie. It's all, like, okay, it is very important for the world building. It's very important to understand why these things are happening. And it's also very important because this is the way that Palpatine is building his empire, is by manipulating all of the, like, political stuff. But, like, the movie just comes to a screeching halt during all of the political talk. It's like, that's when you pull out your phone and you start scrolling through Instagram. It's like, I don't really need to see all of this politics talk. Or, like, if it is important, make it shorter. Like, we don't have to see all the negotiations happen. It just, like, I feel like some of it could have been cut out. This one's kind of funny. The word yippee shows up way too many times in this movie. I hate it. Like, yippee! Like, oh my gosh. It's like, did George Lucas have no other exclamation? Like, I hate the word yippee. Just cut it out. Someone should have told Lucas that that's not okay. So this movie has many technical feats. Jar Jar is one of them. This is around the same time as Gollum. But while Gollum in The Lord of the Rings has aged considerably well, lots of the CGI in this movie doesn't look great. And I'm talking about, like, all the CGI characters, like Watto and Jar Jar and Jabba the Hutt and all of the aliens in the pod race. Like, they were technical feats at that point in time, especially for 1999. But, like, even around that time, like, you look at Gollum and how he looks today, and you look at if you look at this movie and you compare, it's not great. And that kind of makes me sad. And it also makes me think that, don't hate me, there should be another special edition. I know, I'm gonna get so much backlash for this, but there should be another special edition where we redo all of the animation. Redo Jar Jar, redo Watto, redo all of the CGI elements that don't look good, and, like, re-update them. Because look at our CGI now. We have, like, my favorite example is Rocket Raccoon from the Marvel movies. He looks so real. And he's very much real. So if we could take the technology that we have for Rocket and put it back into Star Wars, I feel like it would be just a much better experience. So now I want to talk about some stuff that I know people have strong opinions on, but I'm kind of just like, meh. And I've only mentioned a couple times, but I really have to talk about Jar Jar now. I really don't mind Jar Jar. And just like I get why he needs to be in the story. He could have been less annoying, really, because he definitely is annoying. But, like, he does kind of play a crucial part in the story, with, like, all of the Gungans. But we're going into conspiracy theory land. This is my Jar Jar theory. Jar Jar was supposed to be a Sith. Hear me out. There are parts in the movie where you can see him mouthing along with characters. He seems very hapless, yet he is the reason that they meet Sebulba and learn about pod races. He is the reason why they know that the Gungans exist. He really, like, takes out a couple of droid ships just by being hapless. Like, he kind of schemes a little bit, and just, like, under the guise of being just this complete idiot, which is the perfect cover. So I think Jar Jar was going to be a huge part of the prequel trilogy, but then when Lucas saw how much people hated him, they kind of, like, toned him back a little bit to where the only time you see him in episode 3 is at Padme's funeral. So I feel like they could have done so much more with Jar Jar, but I'm not in charge of that. Another really divisive thing that I'm kind of, like, meh about is baby Anakin. And first of all, I do not condone any bullying of any kind. This kid did his best in this movie. He did a good job in this movie with what he was given and for how old he was. And everyone that bullied him can go, I don't know, jump in the lake. He did a really good job. He did a really good job with what he was. He's adorable, first of all. And while there are some moments where it's like, yeah, it's just bad child acting, like, everything in the pod race is really good. Like, I really enjoy his acting in the pod race. I'm really excited for, like, his reactions when he's in the Naboo fighter and, like, zooming off into space is so funny. So I can get why people are mad at him, but then also that's just being a child actor. Like, you win some, you lose some. Midichlorians are also really divisive. I understand the need for a explanation for force powers, and considering they don't ever really come up again, it's kind of just like this weird one-off. But it also kind of takes away some of the mysticism of the force. Like, I get that. Like, how the force is just so mysterious and natural that having something like midichlorians kind of takes the fun out of it. And then finally, the Deus Ex Machina of the droid ship is alright. I mean, it started a trend where it's like, you know, the thing in the sky blows up and then all the pawns fall dead. It makes sense in this case where it's like, yeah, of course they'd have people controlling what the droids are doing on the land up there, and that if that is destroyed, then it'd work. I kind of mind that. It is kind of a cop-out, but at the same time, there's like no other way that they could have won that. So, yeah. So that's the kind of stuff I'm met on. Now there are a couple of things that I want to talk about, just in like the grand scheme of things. First of all, the production design. Holy cow. Everything in this movie is so beautiful. Padme's costumes, the worlds, the underwater city, I'm gonna say again, the weapons, the locations, the pod racers, just the way everything looks is so real and so beautiful. And you can really tell that they really tried hard to have a concept and to have continuity in this world, that you can like really tell what's from Naboo, what's from Coruscant, what's from Tatooine. You can really, really tell that they really put some heart and soul into it, and it's beautiful. And it's like that for the entirety of the series. I love everything about the beginning of Palpatine's plan, because this is really when it starts in motion, because not only is this Vader's story, it's Palpatine's story. And especially once you get into the sequel trilogy, oh gosh, we're not looking forward to that. But especially once you get into that, you can really see how this is kind of Palpatine's story. And this is Palpatine's saga, of how this guy from this peaceful small planet became the most powerful man in the universe, both politically and like physically powerfully. And how just it all starts with him, because if you know deep Star Wars lore, he's the one that impregnated Shmi. We don't have to get into that. But how like his scheming and his conniving on both sides gets him the chancellorhood of the entire galaxy. And you can see as soon as he sees Anakin, he knows that that's what he's ultimately working for. And like all of the pieces like slowly come together, and you can really see in just everything he does, by sending the Trade Federation to his home planet, first of all, to planting the seeds of doubt into Padme's mind of maybe Chancellor Valorum is not the right person to be Chancellor, which I'm sure he was doing a fine job, but Palpatine had to go ruin it. And just like how he was able to get himself nominated, and I'll talk about it more as the prequel trilogy goes on, but everything he does is so perfectly planned. It is so good. So overall, it's great. I really like this movie. I never really understood the backlash for it. And it's always fun for a rewatch, especially because Padme is my favorite and I love everything that she wears and does. So I tried to do my hair a little bit like her today, but I don't have that much hair. So again, if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Episode 2, I think I'm watching it tonight, so I'll watch it, I'll make notes, and then I'll make a whole nother video on it. We're gonna go through this movie by movie. Oh, and then I wanted to rank it. So of course, since this is the first one, Phantom Menace is in my #1 spot, but that will change, definitely. So remember, like and subscribe, comment, what's your favorite part of this movie? What do you not like about this movie? Are you pro Jar Jar or against Jar Jar? Like anything, just tell me, what do you think of the Phantom Menace? And I will catch you on the flip side. Bye, and may the Force be with you.